Hey everybody, I'm Robert. Welcome back down to the channel. Welcome to the studio. Today I want to talk about something that you guys have actually been asking a lot about. It's something we don't really talk a lot about, and that's crashing, the crashing of our cars and really how we handle it. And a lot of it came out of people saying, do we really feel that taking a manual transmission Yaris and renting it on the track is something we feel comfortable with? Especially when I'm the one that misshifted it, somebody that probably shouldn't have, yet I still did. How are we going to handle that in the future? But it also leads down to how do we handle other crashes, and what kind of stories do I have about other crashes that I can share? The reality is that most of the people who have crashed our cars have been very responsible and very respectful and done everything they could to remedy the situation, so I don't really want to talk about it too much. But I have one big example in particular where somebody crashed one of our cars and has actually basically just disappeared after getting quite a bit of help. It's a pretty sleazy thing he did, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. That'll be actually towards the end of the video because we're going to go in a progression. Timestamps are below, so if any of you guys don't want to hear all the chit chat and everything that runs up to it, just jump down through the different cars, get the idea of what happened when they were crashed. Believe me, this is only a fraction of what incidents we could talk about, but these are just some key ones to mention. The Yaris rocker arms, they went like crazy. I actually have them all sitting here still. We're going to turn them all into keychains. We're going to put numbered 1 of 12, 2 of 12, so on and so forth on all of them, and get those shipped out to you guys that bought them, so congratulations. The camshaft is still available. Yeah, it's a joke on the website, but we thought we'd like to have fun and do things like that. But yeah, so it's been pretty exciting. The t-shirts and the hoodies are still available, the money shift. We're going to take orders until 1 May, and on 1 May we're going to close the orders and print the shirts, and that's it. But let's get down to it. Over revving the Yaris, how are we going to handle that? Many rental companies on the Nürburgring actually have a program where they put into the OBD2 socket a reader, and that reader essentially notifies if there was an over rev and how high the over rev was during the time of rental. So we have one of those coming that's going to go into the Yaris as well as the GT86 and the 218, so that all of these cars can be monitored for an over rev. We're going to set a amount of money that would basically be held as a deposit in the case, or not as a deposit I should say, but as a fee for over revving the car, because that ultimately is wear and tear on the valve train and wear and tear on the engine. That's going to go towards a pot that would eventually rebuild the motor if needed. And it's going to be scaled. If you over rev by 500 RPM, it's X amount. If it's by 1000 RPM, it's X amount. If you send it to the moon, it's probably, the motor's probably toast anyways, like I did. So that's how we're going to do that. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, 99% of the customers that come to Apex, we trust. They know us through this communication, through this channel, be it mine, Misha's, Apex channel. We could say George's channel now, now that he's an influencer, a lap influencer. And most of you guys know us and are respectful, and if something happens, you say, look, this is what happened. And those of you that know us, and from a lot of these stories that are coming, you'll see that if you say that you did something and you own up to it, you're probably going to get a big break, because our goal is to share the Nürburgring with you, to share an experience with you, and to have a lot of fun with you. The minute that you maybe try and go sneaky about it, then you lose our respect, and probably some negotiations will break down. So the situation is that we're going to put a camera in the car as well. So we'll always have a race navigator running to verify the over rev. What I don't want to have happen is a device in that says, oh, well, you over revved by 500 RPM, and somebody says, well, no, that wasn't me, I didn't do it. We're going to have it on video as well. So we'll have the video and the data logger. Now, the benefit to the customer is that they're going to get access to lap videos, because we're going to have a video in the car. So there's going to be no extra charge for it. It's going to be a security feature, but if you do your laps, then you actually get to have video of your laps in the Yaris as well. So I think it turns into a win-win, where we're protected and then the customer gets something out of it on the other side, and that's lap footage from them driving the car. So that's how we're going to handle it. The 218 and the GT86, two key cars in our fleet that have never had an over rev situation that was questioned or doubted or in denial. One person did have an over rev that was going down into the foxhole in the GT86. And I don't remember what gear it was stuffed into. It's been so long. And they got away pretty reasonable. We bought a motor that was of like vintage, I guess you could say, similar kilometers, similar age, and put it in the car, and the car's run absolutely perfect since then. So that's the situation there. Why don't I give you a couple examples of how we've handled some crashes and some things that have happened, from really, I would say, one that worked out very good, or two that worked out very good for the customer. That would be the original Polo that we had, and then the M4, and then one that a customer just paid as normal, and then another one where somebody basically crashed the car and fled. So with the original Polo that we had, a gentleman from the Netherlands, really nice kid, he was studying, he crashed the Polo, and it was really unfortunate because the way that he crashed it, we know this is a front wheel drive car with the transmission connected to the engine, all sitting up at the front. And the way he crashed it, the car went into the wall and pushed perfectly on the front axle and forced the drive shaft into the transmission, which essentially grenaded the transmission and ultimately hurt the motor. You know, there was some stress on the motor and things like that. Well, the car was brand new, and I can't remember what I paid for the car brand new, somewhere around, I think, 20-something thousand euro. And this one hit, when you looked at the car, you thought, oh, we'll just replace the wheel, replace the wheel, do a little bit of work on the suspension, paint the side of the car, and it's back in business. No, it totaled the car. The cost of the transmission, the going through the engine, replacing all of the suspension, everything ended up totaling out to more than the car was worth, and the car was only a couple months old. So it was a brand new Volkswagen Polo that was totaled. The young man, he didn't have money, and it was really hard for him. So we worked out a deal with him to pay his portion of it. Gosh, I think he ended up paying $100 a month or something like that for quite a while, and we greatly reduced the bill of what he did. We salvaged the car, and we sold the car for for parts essentially, and basically took where we were at and made sure he didn't pay any more than that. He ended up paying over 2 years, I believe. And if you're in business and you have a loss and you end up getting paid $100 a month, you never feel like that money came back because you never get that chunk to work with. So we really did try and work with him to do everything we could. And in addition, we brought him back out, and he took the new Polo GTI that we replaced it with. We gave him a hotel room and a stay and said, look, you're going to come and you're going to drive this at no expense. You're going to have an instructor in the car at all times because we want you. Your last opinion of the Nürburgring can't be you crashing our Polo and having to commit to a monthly payment for the next 2 years. That's not what we want. So I would say that worked out well for him. We broke even at the end of it, and obviously made sure that we went back and helped him out so that he could continue enjoying the Nürburgring. The next one was a similar case with the M4. The person who did this may even be watching the video or might get this video, but he ended up taking a curb too hard in the M4, ripped off the front splitter, and in the process of ripping off the front splitter, ripped off the oil coolers underneath the car and drained the engine of all of its engine oil down the track pretty good. And this was right after we had Schirmer work done to the car. It was freshly built by Team Schirmer, brand new carbon fiber splitters, all of his kinematics, and it ended up being that the motor had to be replaced, all of the front splitters had to be replaced, the under tray. It took damage all the way as far back as underneath the differential. There's cooling fins underneath the differential that got damaged. The damage, I think, was over 20,000 euro, and the guy was just distraught and really upset. And he did everything he could. Again, he didn't have the money to pay for it, but he came in and he was always responsive. He was upfront with what he had. I think he paid 2,000 or 3,000 up front, and then just made payments occasionally through PayPal when he had money. One of his friends, another one of our very good customers, was helping him do that. And at a certain point, he said, I'm not coming back to the ring. I can't do this. And we made a deal that he was making one of his last payments. And we said, okay, after this payment that you're making, you don't have to pay any more. We're going to cut off your payments. We've paid to fix the car already. It's back. We're going to just let it be. And I think he ended up paying about half the damage of what the total damage was to the car. And again, now we're going to see him back at the Nürburgring, and we're going to work with him on getting him actually in the M4. We're going to do some taxi laps on a track day and just have some fun. So you can see that we're really working with people in most cases. if there's a financial hardship, we're working with them and hoping that one day if these guys hit the lottery, they're going to say, hey, I still owe you 10 grand. We want to take care of this. If they never hit the lottery, then they don't owe us anything. It's no big deal. That's really my hope for it, is that when these things happen, the people leave Apex, people leave the Nürburgring feeling like, hey, you know what? I caused damage, but someone's at least trying to work with me. We have another customer who rented our original red Cupra, and he didn't make it to the first turn. He went down Tiergarten, made the little left right, and he immediately going into Hohenrhein just didn't turn the wheel and straight into the barrier, and he had a pretty good damage. And he came back and he said, I know what I've done. I've made a mistake. Here's my credit card, and he paid his bill right there. And that was one of those cases where, he knew exactly what he did. He knew exactly what it was. And we went through the process and tried to reduce his payments as low as possible, made sure that he didn't pay tax on the damages and all these different things. And it turned out that he was okay about it, and he knew exactly what he did. So that's 3 different scales of situations, from, a Polo to the M4 to the Cupra, where the customers all did what they needed to do. They came out and we worked with them in the best way possible. The last one that I'll tell you about is our white Clio that we had. It was a really cool car. It was a car that we had bought because we had a blue Clio as well, and it was the 200 model, I guess RS 200 model, and people were loving it. It was a very reasonable price rental. It was set up nicely, very quick and a lot of fun. And a gentleman came and he drove it. We'll call him John just for this story. And he came and he drove it, and he went out and did lap. He was taking friends with him, and they were having a good time. And it's always the last lap. On the last lap, he put it on his roof, put the car on its roof, and the guys were actually injured to a certain extent and ended up in the hospital. The driver of the car, the guy who rented it, he ended up spending, I would say, a couple weeks in the hospital. And during that time, the Apex team was helping him, working with police, going and getting his belongings, doing literally everything that we could, writing letters for his health insurance to prove that he wasn't in a competition, writing letters to the track to get their support to prove that he wasn't in a competition, just so he could get his health insurance coverage and everything. And the team went out of their way. They drove friends to the hospital, coordinated with the hospital, coordinated with the police and everything to make sure that this guy was taken care of. And he ultimately got transferred out of the hospital and went home and completely skipped out on everything, and has ultimately since then ghosted us. And yeah, we can find him, and what we're going to do is obviously send lawyers after him and do what we can. But you know what? When you do that kind of thing, you're pretty sleazy. When you look at college kids who have no money and they're taking care of it, we cut them a break because of their situation. We have guys who are working hard, and they're working hard with their hands and doing jobs and all these different things, and they come and say, look, I don't have much money, but here's what I can do. We give them a break. But it really puts a bad, I would say, taste in everybody's mouth when somebody literally just skips town after you've got a team of people who are running to the hospital to help him, working with the police, collecting personal belongings, going through the whole process, and they literally skip town, not even as much as a thank you for coming out multiple times to the hospital to see me, helping my friends sort stuff out, getting letters and coordinating with my health insurance. Not even a thank you, just a I'm out of here. So John, you're a douchebag, but it's really unfortunate to see that somebody like this could do that. But I think the takeaway on it is the Yaris. If you guys over rev it, of course we're going to have some sort of compensation for it. It's going to be based on how severe it is. We're going to have video in it so that we can see exactly what happens, so there can be no deniability, but you're going to get a lap video out of it. And more importantly, if something does happen, you're going to probably get a lot of leniency if you just come forward and say, hey, this is what happened, how can we work together? And how can we resolve this? Because anytime that somebody's done that and said, this is my limit, I can't do any more than this, or man, this is really going to be hard for me, can I pay this off over 20 years? We always work with you guys, and we always end up with a good relationship afterwards. We don't have anybody who's crashed a car who has come to us and said, hey, this is my situation, that we haven't found a compassionate solution so that we can either get the car back on the road, or get you back in a car or get back on the Nürburgring having fun. Guys, I hope that gives a little bit of insight to how some of this works. I hope that it shows how we want to work with our customers, work with you guys so that you can have fun without having the ultimate liability, but also keep the business operating. Anyways, thank you for the comments. Thank you for all the input. We'll catch you guys later.